Hello, everyone, and happy afternoon. We have saved the best for last, and I even brought my BiblioCommons pom-poms for BiblioApps office hours. And we are joined today by Frances Kim, BiblioApps Product Manager. And just like in the other sessions, if you would like to view the live transcript, just click the little button located in the bottom of the video stream on the purple bar. And then you can also request a transcript of the session if you'd like. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Frances. Oh, one more thing. So first, we would start with any questions that are actually in the partner portal. Carol did send us a question, so we'll start with that. But then we'll start with any questions that you all text in, and Frances will have other things to share. So if you have any BiblioApps questions, please just start texting those in, and we will get to them. So thank you, Frances.
Okay, thanks, Erica. So let's start with Carol's question. So thank you, Carol, for the question. The question is, could you provide some more detail around this point in the BiblioApps roadmap, allow individual users to opt out of multi-accounts? Okay, so great question. The multi-accounts feature went live in late July, and libraries had two options at that point. One is to go live with the feature or to opt out of the feature. So we do have some libraries who have opted out of the feature. Now, when it comes to individual patrons, how the feature works is that in order to add a card or an account through the multi-accounts feature, you require the barcode and PIN numbers. So only authorized individuals with the credentials will be allowed to add an account through the app. Now, as far as opting out, just say there's a scenario where a user wants their card removed. They don't want their card shared anymore. Right now, the mechanism, how that would happen is that individual can change their PIN number. Then what happens is anyone who has added their account prior, if they try switching over to that account or activating it using that account from their app, there's authentication that happens, and then the app will recognize that, hey, the PIN number has changed. Immediately, the card will be removed. So there is a method right now to kind of quote unquote like opt out of multi-accounts, but it really requires a PIN change. So the feature that we're looking into would be a feature where a patron could like explicitly through like a checkbox or a toggle, they would opt out of the feature, which means that they're kind of preemptively opting out, so that even if let's say a family member had that person's credentials, if the person's opted out and then let's say the parent tries to add the card, the parent will be blocked from adding the card. By opting out, what that also means is that the card will then be removed as well from any app that might have added that account. I hope that made sense, but please let me know if you require any clarification.
Terrific. So, Frances, I don't see any other questions right now. Do you want to share like information from the roadmap or what you're really excited about coming up or any other slides while we're waiting for more questions to come in?
Yeah, sure. So I do have a deck ready. I know we spent a bit of time, a few minutes to go over all the product roadmaps, but I want to like maybe dig a little bit deeper into what's coming out for BiblioApps in November, what we're working on. So everyone here will be getting the first sneak peek of some of the work we're working on. So hopefully you'll enjoy that, and we'd love to hear your feedback and questions. So I will pull up the deck. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions as we go along.
Is it not letting you share? I can change your...
Let me try. All right, share.
Great.
Am I sharing the full screen, Erica?
No, it's sharing the like presenter mode
Like the
where
note? Okay, let me stop here and try again. Okay, how's that?
yeah, perfect.
Okay, amazing. All right. So we'll be covering some ground that we went over yesterday, but I do have more to share here. So in November of this year, we put out a release every quarter. There's a few features that we're excited to introduce. One is saved search support. The other is patron ability to customize their home screen. As well, for analytics, we're already covering a lot of events, particularly events that are happening on BiblioCore pages, such as on the bib page, on lists, etc. But one gap right now is native screens. So we're not capturing events that are happening from screen visits from within the app. So we'll be closing that gap in Q4. As well, we have a preview of web content in BiblioApps that's ongoing that will continue in Q4. As far as work in development, we have a what did you think of carousel, which will include call to action to rate and review items for items that are on user shelves. So I'll share some screenshots of that. As well as multi-account functionality for self-checkout, a workaround to handle. So iPhone 14 Pros have an issue with short range distance. Where that's been problematic for the app is that for users with that model of phone, if they're trying to scan like a barcode, for instance, it's having problems picking that up because of an inherent issue with the iPhone 14 Pro. So it's not unique to BiblioApps. It's just something that's faulty with that model. So we're introducing a workaround for that so that you can get your barcode scanning working again, as well as set support for RFID checkout. So with RFID checkout, we're currently supporting self-checkout for like single tag items. However, we don't currently support sets. So items with multiple volumes, maybe like a book and map combination, for example. So we'll be implementing support for that. And then a bunch of stuff that we're researching, but let's just like dive right into the features. So multi-account support, as I was mentioning earlier, really what that feature does is it allows you to add multiple accounts to the app. Each account or card corresponds with a BiblioCommons account. So each time, for instance, you're adding a card, you'll have to log in with those credentials. Once a card's been added, it's added to your collection of cards. You can easily swipe left and right between them. And you don't need to like log in and authenticate every time. So a bit more detail in terms of how that looks. So when you add a card, the dot indicator gives an indication of how many cards there are. So in this example, there's 2. And then the currently active account has in use label, it's in full color. Your other accounts, additional accounts or cards are in grayscale, just to make very clear which is a currently active account. As well, we've added personalization to the home screen. So it will say hello, and then either the username or full name, depending on the user's preferences and settings. As well, we've added an avatar through multiple places in the app so that users can switch the account within the flow of what they're doing. So for instance, if you're on the bib page and you're about to put a hold on that item or add that to a shelf, then you can just like change the account on the spot rather than having to jump out, go to the My Library Card screen, activate the account, find that bib again. We made sure that there's multiple touch points throughout the app.
Francis, one question on multi-accounts and opt-out. Holly had asked, are you envisioning the opt-out as a one-time event, or would this become an account setting that users could toggle on or off?
Yeah, good question. We're looking at it as an account setting. So it'll just be persistent. So you can imagine, for instance, in your settings page, you would have a toggle that says, hey, opt out of multi-accounts. Once that's on, it would just opt out indefinitely. So
you can turn it back on later?
And you could turn it back on later. Yeah.
You could?
Yep.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So also in the recent release, we included event search. In the app, there was already for libraries that have Biblio events, you could see your events on the home screen. There was also filters so that you can like narrow that down. However, some users found it frustrating that you can't like search for a particular event. So in the existing search box, now there is a switcher, I guess you would call it, to switch between catalog and event search. And then if you do an event search, you would load the search results within the app. So one thing that we made sure was that the catalog search is still obviously like the key use case. The vast majority of searches are going to be for the catalog. That's kind of the main use case for the app. So we made sure that process is seamless. We didn't want to add friction to doing like a search for a title. So catalog is a default, and then when you return to the search, it will be catalog. However, you can easily switch to event search if you like. Okay, and yeah, so already live, we have a range of like analytics that we're already capturing from the app. Those include transactions such as place hold, digital checkout, and more. As I was saying, like essentially anything that's happening on the Biblio core page, we're capturing that data, or we're capturing that traffic now and attributing it to BiblioApps. As well, you'll know whether it's the iOS app or the Android app. So you can get a sense of like, okay, like how much of this activity is happening from within the app. So that's already live and available.
Oh, actually, so we have a few more questions, if you're okay, as we go through.
Please.
So one question that Tiff asked is, I love this search toggle. Would blogs/news posts or general website be an option for search once those are implemented into the app?
Yeah, we can extend the concept in the future to include web content. That's a great idea. Right now, it will be limited to events and catalog search.
Cool.
But yeah, great suggestion. Yeah.
One more question from Carol on this similar topic. When I run a catalog search and then switch to event search, I'm prompted to re-enter my search term. Would it be possible to keep the search term so I don't have to re-enter it?
So you just ran a catalog search, you switched to events, but you would like to retain the same search? Is that search term?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does reset. Although that's an interesting idea. When we did the usability testing, I think the preference was to kind of clear out the search, but I would be interested to hear what the rest of you all think. So if you want to post a partner pro suggestion on that, we'd love to hear if if other libraries agree with that. But it's something that we could consider for sure.
Nice. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's what was recently released. So in preview, as I mentioned, what we're introducing now, working towards, is to include Biblio web content within the app. Basically, any kind of like cards that your library has created for online resources, news, or blogs. We want to leverage that effort and that work to like market that content in this wonderful BiblioApps channel that's going to reach a different user base, a wider user base. while they're on the go. It just made sense. You're putting a lot of work into this content. Let's feature it. With this feature, you will see new carousels on the home screen for news, blogs, and online resources. And the image you see there, all that content is based on the cards that you've created. So there's no like additional effort. You're already doing this activity. We're just featuring it. For news and blogs, what we're featuring is the most recent. So it's based on the recent items that you've published. For online resources, it will be your featured online resources, those that you've tagged as featured. And then there is a view all exit link, which will then load kind of a view all screen for all of your online resources, blogs, and news. Similar to the explore page, you can switch between most recent and featured. Most recent being the default. And then also similar to the explore page, you can like filter down your selection to narrow that down to what you would like to see. So here's an example of the news view, which includes the publish date. And you can see here that the different facets that are there and the options to filter those results. Online resources and blogs has a slightly modified view. So in this view, we don't include the publish date. However, we will include a bit of the description just to give users more context in terms of what they're clicking into. Online resources, for example, sometimes it's not completely obvious what the online resource does or what it's for just based on the title and image. So the descriptions are helpful there. So that's available. The other thing that we worked in partnership with the BiblioWeb team to ensure that once you click on those items and jump into a blog or news post, that we're providing an in-app web view, which means that we're streamlining the view so that it's appropriate for a mobile device. So we've hidden some things like breadcrumbs, banner, social media links, tags, and footer. It's just a cleaner view that surfaces or highlights the most important information. As online resources, there are external resources. Those would just launch into an external browser. So those are handled a little bit differently. And all the things that you can do on a blog post, like for instance, place a hold, add a title, those will all work with the app as well. The other thing that's not noted here, but we've also, from an analytics perspective, we're instrumenting all of this so that when you are doing web activity within these views, that activity will be attributed to the app. So you'll be able to understand, how much of this content is really being viewed from within the app, which might inform your content decisions or yield some insights there. Yeah, that is web content. The one other thing I'll note is that libraries will have the option to opt in and out of the different carousels. So for instance, if your library, just say your online resources don't change a lot over the course of months or even years, and you're concerned that, okay, this is going to be a little stale, or it's not something we want to like feature or advertise that prominently, we can turn that off. Some libraries, for instance, if you're staffing is resources are scarce, and if you're not putting out as many blogs as you like at that time, perhaps you want to disable that carousel and maybe consider enabling that in the future. That is something that every library will have the option to do. So we will be reaching out to all the BiblioWeb libraries over the next quarter just to find out your opt-out preference. The thing to note is that that can change. So if you're just not ready for online resources now, but just say in 6 months' time, you say, hey, this is the right timing for me to enable this in the app, you would just need to put in a support request, and then, we can enable that carousel at that time. If you want to opt out of it all, that's also an option for you, but hopefully you will take advantage of this new feature. Okay, so in November, what are we shipping? So saved searches. So from this feature, the first noticeable change is from the search bar. If you do have existing set of saved searches that you've already created in BiblioCore, when you tap on an empty search bar, you will see a list of your existing saved searches, making it much more accessible to run your saved searches from where you would expect to run them. So this UI follows a common convention that you see in pretty much any app that supports this kind of feature. Currently, you can access saved searches, but it's kind of buried in your settings screen, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The whole point of this feature is you want to run the saved search at the time you're running a search. So we'll be introducing that. As well, there is ability to manage and create and save your searches from within the app. And of course, this all syncs with Core. So if you've created a saved search here, when you load up Chrome on your desktop and you log in, you'll see the same set of saved searches. It's all there.
Oh, no, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that
Yeah.
a long time ago, I remember seeing a wireframe where we had the save search on the homepage, the landing page of the app. When save searches comes out, will it be on the landing page or will it be here and then like within the search path and in your settings, or is there somewhere else it'll be featured?
Yeah, so this will be only initially on the search bar, like when you go to run a search. Nothing on the home screen is going to change. However, we do hear all the time that, hey, it'll be really cool if you could see your saved search results like right on your home screen. That'll be a nice personalization enhancement. That's something certainly that's on our radar that we can consider doing. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with saved searches, but this is kind of like the MVP, I would say, for this launch.
Great. And can you explain what MVP is?
Yeah, sorry. Minimum viable product. So
it's still baseball season, so it's not most valuable player.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, you're right. It is baseball season. No, MVP is so what that term is it's like an agile concept, which is to ship valuable features fast and early. So rather than building a feature over 12 months and you're holding out on providing some value immediately. What you do is the MVP means, okay, what's a minimal viable product that's going to provide value that we can ship quickly so that we can do quarterly releases and keep providing you value. The other benefit of MVP is that when you put out smaller products, you can learn, adjust, and improve as you're going along, as opposed to, releasing an elephant and then so that's the concept. So this will be the MVP of Saved Search, but we have a lot planned. There's a lot more in store. So
great.
Okay. So yeah, again, saved searches are easy to access from the search screen. There is a view all link. So as you notice here, if you go to view all, then you'll see a list of all your saved searches. And from here, you can run a search. You might want to remove the search. You can rename the search as well. So it's quite easy to manage your searches all within the app. And one thing that's not shown on the screenshots here, it's kind of hidden. I should have added another screenshot. But in this second screenshot, you can see behind like the overlay, there's a heart right here. Kind of difficult to see, but this is what you would do to create a saved search. So for instance, if you run a search, you like the results, you want to save it, you would tap on the heart. At that point, you can name your search. The default search name will be just a query that you ran, but you can choose to rename it if, for instance, you want a more user-friendly name. You can equally as easily delete a saved search. So if you run a saved search, this heart will be in a filled state. If you tap on that, it will prompt you with whether you want to delete the saved search, so you can kind of like delete it on the spot. The other thing to note is any like filters or ordering that you've done applied to the search, that would all be saved as well. So yeah, and yeah, about home screen customization. So yes, we talked about this yesterday, but this is another area that we're trying to improve the customization aspect of BiblioApps. As you all know, the home screen is a one-size-fits-all approach currently, which is, and obviously we're all individual. We have our preferences. We'd like the app to kind of respect our individuality and our tastes. So one area that we're helping improve that is the ability to enable or disable sections from within the app, as well as kind of like adjusting the order of items on the home screen. So what that looks like is if you go into your settings screen, there is a customized home screen option. And from here, I can, the default will be that these sections are all toggled on. However, if I were to check one off, then when I hit save, that section is hidden from the app, from the home screen. If I move a section, change the ordering, then that ordering will be reflected as well once the home screen refreshes. Now, when we built this, we weighed different like possible UIs for how to implement this, drag and drop, or the arrow convention that we used here. Now, what we found was the arrows were, although drag and drop is very intuitive and a common standard, it's not accessible. It's not very accessible for screen readers. It just doesn't work. Drag and drop. There's no way to do that well. And with people with motor disabilities, it's requiring them to drag is not can be challenging. So we did choose to use the arrow mechanism just because it works well for a broad audience of users, and it's still fairly intuitive. So we did pretty extensive usability testing on that, and we didn't find that there was any challenge that it was like any less intuitive. So yeah, just a bit of insight into why we chose to implement it the way that we did. And yeah, analytics. So this is something that we'll be chipping away at every quarter. So every time we have a roadmap update, there's gonna be something new here. As I was mentioning earlier, right now, we're capturing basically any like BiblioCore activity, such as anything on a bid page, etc. However, the native screen, so just to explain, like a web view is essentially within the app. A web view is actually a web page which has been rendered to display in a mobile-friendly way. So for instance, when you go to the bid page in the app, you're actually loading the BiblioCore page, which is, because it's all under the same design system, it's very seamless. When these are implemented badly, it's very obvious when you jump into a web page, a different web page. However, a native page is a page built in native code that's like built within the app. And those currently are not instrumented. So for instance, when you go to the home screen or you go to any of the sections on the bottom tab menu, you navigate to any of those screens, you're not going to capture that activity in GA4. So what we're doing is we're just closing the gap so that any screen that you visit in BiblioApps in Q4, whether it's a bid page or a list or whatever it is that you're visiting, blog post, that's also all can be captured in analytics. So that's kind of like the baseline that we want to establish for the end of this year. And then in Q1, that's when we're going to really go into some of the events to get a better sense of engagement. So like, what are people clicking on the home screen, and that kind of stuff. So, but as a baseline, we want to cover screen events. So that's what we'll be working in. It will be included in the November release. Okay. Yeah, any questions before we move on? I thought with this next few minutes, I could give you a little preview of what we're working on. So this is the first time external eyes will be on this. So,
ooh, that is exciting. We do have a few questions.
Okay.
Okay, one is Tiff was saying we get a lot of requests for push notifications when holds are ready. Sorry if you already mentioned this, but are notifications a possibility for the app?
Yes. So yeah, it's loud and clear that libraries want this for obvious reasons. I want this for my own personal reasons. But it is something that we're continuing to investigate. The reason that we're not rolling it out like tomorrow is that it does involve like a lot of tech stacks, and it does involve like our friends from BiblioCore, and it's just like it's a large engagement. So it's something that we're always doing discovery on, and like we have a pretty solid idea of what it would take to do that. It's just due to competing priority, we just haven't been able to roll it out right away. But certainly it's something that is on the radar that we would like to roll out sooner than later, starting with those kind of things, so like hold notices and ILS things. The other thing that one possibility is that we might start with safe search alerts, because from a complexity standpoint, that is simpler, because we don't have we're not as dependent on a lot of different tech stacks, I would say, for that. So if that's something that you would see as valuable, that would be kind of like maybe a quicker starting point. But we'd love to hear your thoughts in Partner Portal or in the suggestions, what you think about that idea. But yes, so in short, yes, we want to do it. It's something that we're chipping away at, but I wouldn't say it will be next year, though.
Yeah, and it also,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the ILS, right? But we don't even have access to that data from all the ILSs at this point. So it would probably require some API changes from the ILS vendors as well.
Yeah, that's the most complex part. So we do need to partner and get some cooperation from that perspective. What I would also say, though, is that that kind of initiative goes like well beyond just push notifications. So once we solve that problem, there's a lot that we can do with that data that would benefit, for instance, Biblio email, having emails triggered by, this kind of data. There's a lot we can do. So it is a big project, but, we're excited to finally solve this, because there's a lot then we'll be able to do, including push notifications. So.
Great. Okay, there's a few more questions. Carol mentioned that she hasn't had a chance to add this to AHA yet, but they'd love to see badges on multi-account avatars, or like the link to library cards to indicate notifications like hold available, due soon, overdue, similar to toggling between different accounts on Instagram. So.
Okay.
And she also said she's really excited for safe searches. So that's awesome. And then another question is the customize the homepage sync. Does that sync with BiblioCore?
No, it's completely independent. So Core is exploring similar types of things for their dashboard. I think once Core gets to that point, we'll want to make sure that there's no confusion, or and if there are kind of like synergies there, or like make that consistent, then that's something we want to consider when we're implementing that. But at the moment, it'll just be on your app. The other thing I'll point out is that it is stored locally, not server side. So for instance, if you were to delete the app and then reinstall the app, it would set back to the default setting. So none of this is being stored server side, where then it could be used by BiblioCore or anything like that. So it's all local.
Great. Okay. Well, now everyone who has stayed until this very last 30 minutes of BiblioCon gets rewarded by seeing things that have never been seen outside of product.
Many internal people haven't seen this either, so this will be a good test.
I haven't seen it. I'm so excited.
No one's seen this. Yeah, no one has seen this outside of like 5 people. So so we love to hear feedback as well. So this is a bit, we're going to throw it out there and let's see what you guys think. Okay. So the what did you think of, I should have added a title here, but the what did you think of feature. So what that is, as I mentioned, is basically it's a way to get patrons to provide more feedback in the form of like ratings and comments. Right now, the level of feedback is quite low from patrons on borrowed items, which is unfortunate, because when someone has an item checked out, or they've returned it, that item's gonna be top of mind. It's like a really good opportunity to ask them to provide that kind of feedback. Of course, you can currently provide feedback, but we're missing an opportunity is, I guess, the point. And also we want to incentivize or prompt people to do this. So whenever we're like tackling a problem, one of the tools that we use is to try to reframe the problem in the form of a question that we can then like feel inspired to solve. So a couple of questions that the team came up with is, how might we incentivize users to add ratings, titles they've checked out, and how could we incentivize users to add reviews to those titles? And what we came up with is a project goal. So who are we helping here? I'd say it's primarily patrons to provide feedback on what they thought about the titles they've completed by allowing patrons to rate and review titles when they are still top of mind. So let's take that window of opportunity and then let's do something about it. And like, why would people do this? One is that it allows users to feel like they're helping other readers. So in conversations that we had with some people that were doing usability testing, they really like the idea of like helping others find reads, which is interesting because my intuition was that it would be more a personal gain, as in like, okay, you'd offer personalization of reading recommendations, but actually it was really this idea of like helping others, which came out a little bit more, as well as this idea that there are users that are expecting to receive like reading recommendations. So you're learning more about me. So like, how do I benefit from that? What we are implementing here is it's called "What Did You Think of" carousel. It's just an internal working title at the moment. But what will happen is on the home screen, there will be a carousel of titles that are based on the user's shelf. So items that are either completed or have been in progress for a certain period of time. So for instance, if you've just checked out a book and it's in progress shelf, we don't want to ask you for feedback like 2 days after it's been in progress. So we give you a bit of time. And then after that period of time, we'll ask you to rate this item. Also, any items that have appear here have not been rated by the user. So if you've already rated an item and you've added a review, great. Like, why are we bothering you with that? So it's just those items. And users can basically rate or comment on the item. So let's see a little bit more what that's about. So in this presentation, there is 2 calls to action. One is to rate the item. So you can see this currently has no rating. You can rate the item. You can also update your shelf status. So if you're like, oh, actually I completed that, I'm going to change it to completed. Then you'll be able to do that straight from here. And only titles that are, only if there are like eligible titles that meet that criteria, will you see this carousel. So if there's no items, we don't want to like be bombarding with this. It will just disappear from the screen. However, this row will be also included in the home screen customization. So for instance, if you want to move it down or you want to just turn it off altogether, that's something that we're giving users a choice to do. So that will all be available. As far as the how this works, so once a user rates an item, so just say this user has said, oh yeah, I want to give this 4 stars, they'll do so. And then a modal will pop up that will prompt the user to add a comment. Okay, and it is optional. And you can see here now, this has been updated to show the rating here. So 4 out of 5, you can update it if you want. You can add your comment and submit. The other thing is it will adhere to any COPPA restrictions. So any restrictions that apply there on BiblioCore would be reflected here as well. So there is no concern with that. By default, any privacy setting will also be reflecting the user's preference. So that will all be taken into account. And then, yeah, so then once that's done, we've received the rating and comment, which is really great. a little bit of insight as far as usability testing. So before we code anything or before we even build the high fidelity mockups, we do usability testing with real users. And so we put this prototype to the test, and we're quite pleased with the findings. One is that overall, people found this like intuitive and enjoyable to do. So when presented with carousel, not prompted with any explanation, they knew what the deal was, what they were expected to do. The star rating system is very familiar and intuitive. And then users found the whole flow attractive and simple and elegant. So when we do build initial designs, we do a lot of industry and competitive research as well. So we looked at a lot of popular common apps, and there are certain patterns in terms of how you ask for ratings, when to ask for comments, how that should be presented, whether they should be optional or not. So we've taken all that to account, so in a way, this is not surprising because it is an experience that should be familiar to users in the apps that, you and I use like every day. And also, people were like delighted with, the benefits of this, which is just, hey, I get to help other people find their next read. I could contribute back to this Biblio community, which is really cool. And then the other comment that would come up is like this expectation. Some users expected, okay, once you like add your rating and comment and you submit, the next thing would be, hey, you might be interested in these titles. So some users had that expectation. And that topic of providing reading recommendations is something that we're exploring, but this does give us a good foundation for that and a good data point. Now, one other thing I'll point out, which isn't mentioned in this slide, is that we did explore the idea of using borrowing history in order to pull this data. However, we want to start with like the most privacy sensitive approach, which is just the shelf activity is like explicit and declarative, and when you're rating, you're doing that very explicitly. So we want to start with that. It's not to say that we won't consider borrowing history in the future, but I know also amongst 20 libraries, if we ask that, there'll be very, very quite a wide range of opinions. Some of you absolutely do not want to do that, and some of you think it's completely natural. So we want to navigate that carefully. But the shelves was kind of like, I would say like a safe and transparent and still a useful way to approach this. So that's why we took that approach. So that is what we're working on.
That's great. Carol also said she really appreciated that privacy is at the forefront of this new feature. Other people are saying, Tifal says really cool. In terms of the usability studies that you guys do, what has surprised you? Like, do you remember anything where you had like a hypothesis that people would do X, Y, or Z, and yet the response was different than what you had expected?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the benefit of like helping others like find their next read was, it's not surprising, but I didn't think I would hear it as much as we did, which is really cool. I'm happy to hear that. The other thing that came up is around the idea of when you rate an item, it will move an item automatically from in progress to completed. So that is a mechanism that's like fundamental to it's like a Biblio core mechanism right now that the apps team is also kind of like reliant on. So that's not something that we would change for, and I'll use the term again, MVP for this first initial release of this product, but it is food for thought, and maybe we need to make it a little bit more transparent or give users the option or more mechanisms to like not have it move automatically to completed. So that is something that came up that is not just specific to this feature, but like a cross-product thing that, we'll have to discuss with our friends at BiblioCore. That was really it. But otherwise, like I said, it was surprisingly. This all sounds like really positive and like I'm hiding anything, but really like that shelf thing about going automatic complete was really the only thing that some users were kind of like confused about. But yeah.
Nice. I feel like it was on the roadmap slide, but I can't remember right now. I feel like one of the things that was on the roadmap before was being able to have lists in BiblioApps. Did you talk about that today?
No, we didn't talk about that. So that was something that we explored. And I think we're talking about user lists specifically.
Yes. So obviously
Oh,
you can see staff lists, but being able to
yeah.
contribute to your own list through BiblioApps.
Yeah. So surfacing user lists on the home screen or making those available, that's quite simple to do. Like, for instance, if I wanted to have a carousel with these are my lists, and then I could just like access them, that's something that we could roll out quite simply. And yeah, we'd love to hear if you all out there think that would be valuable in itself. However, I think there's also an expectation to manage lists, and that as we kind of like explored the requirements for this feature further, it became clear that like I think there was an expectation that people could like just like add a bib like to their lists and through all the different screens on the app and that kind of stuff. And that is a lot more complex. Part of the reason is a lot of the list management is done in V1 pages. So that's not ideal from a BiblioApps perspective. So what we decided was we would pause that for the moment. As you saw from the BiblioCore robot update, they're putting work into the list page, and it's going to look great, and it's going to be all V2 and shiny and nice, analytics, all that stuff. So I think like once that's rolled out, I think there's an opportunity for us to revisit that from the BiblioApps perspective, but it just didn't make sense. We'd have to rely a lot on V1 technology. We will be building it out, they'd update to V2, and then you're tossing out all the work. So it was just a matter of timing and again, some like tech stack complications there, but
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, we have another question. Going back to save search alerts, would this also apply to BiblioCore? An alert would make a great way to, or be a great way to bridge the gap between BiblioSuggest and holds placement.
Save search alerts. I don't see why not, but Tim would have to comment on that. So, but I mean, if we solve it, I don't see why you couldn't leverage that for all the safe search. In any case, leverages BiblioCore technology. Anyways, we're just using endpoints for APIs that we get from BiblioCore. So if we're solving it here, it's going to be solved there. So, but Tim could comment on how that might be folded in. So,
great. Let's see what other questions. I don't see any other questions, but please, you guys, we have about 8 minutes left. If you have any other questions for Francis and apps, while we're waiting for more questions, what can you tell us about self-check in terms of, have we had any feedback? Have you seen anything from patrons now that we have a number of libraries live with self-check? I know here on our call, we have, I see some folks from Arapahoe, they have self-check live. Any other feedback that we've had so far from libraries that have turned self-check on?
We had the, we've had camera issue. So that came up because of self-check. That's where it's most prominent. There was another bug that we solved this year, and my memory is failing me. But overall, I don't think we've received a lot of feedback in terms of like fundamental workflow or improvement type of issues. If correct me if I'm wrong, if Rapo you've been hearing something, we'd love to hear that. But no, aside from a couple bugs here and there,
great.
Yeah.
Our patrons love it. Just the iPhone 14 camera issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Any other questions for Francis? Or Francis, do you have any questions for the group? So we have, let's see, I'll give you a sense of the libraries that are here. Snow Isle, Yuma, Jefferson County, Barry, Edmonton Public, Tacoma, Strathcona, Timberland Regional. Timberland, are you live with apps now, Ryan? You can tell us later. I was thinking that you are not quite live, but maybe you are. Johnson County, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the user list issue, I mean, would people find it useful if we just allowed patrons to access their user lists? Like, for instance, let's throw out this idea of like on the home screen, you see a carousel and you would display the user's list. But any management of that list would still have to be done through like the old list pages and that stuff. Like, we wouldn't be building anything natively up front to manage those lists. I mean, is that something that would be useful? Because we kind of had the hypothesis that it wouldn't, and it might just frustrate users, but yeah, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, what do you guys think? I'm really using my impulse control to not tell you what I would think, since I used to have. Okay, it's your chance. Weigh in on product. Okay. Joanna says we don't hear any complaints, so I think that's good news. Only the iPhone. Oh, she's talking about self-check, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, not sure. Need to think about it more.
Okay. Yeah, and there's one other thing that maybe I'll just throw out there. We don't need like responses right now, but one of the things that we're researching as well is deep linking. An example might be, and I think our friends at Laurel County shared this particular example, which is just say you're sending out an email newsletter and you're featuring a particular title. Right now, when you open the app, you would open the email, you click on the link, you'll load up a browser, and then you would be taken to, like the responsive bib page on your browser. However, what deep linking is that at the time that you're clicking on that link on the email, it would detect that like, hey, either you have the app, so why don't you open this in the app? Because you're already gonna be authenticated. It's gonna be a slicker experience. If you don't have the app, then it might say, hey, do you want to download the app? So I think sometimes you might be familiar with this in other products where you click on a link and then the phone will give you 3 options. Hey, do you want to open it in this, or this? So it's that kind of option, because right now everything will just go to an external a web page. And I think couple of the benefits, again, this was all in the AHA posting, so thank you for this, but I think some of the benefits are, one is that you're generally already authenticated in the app. So for instance, if you want to put something on the shelf or, hold, the app's like really good for that because you're already there. It's like one press. Whereas on external browser, you probably need to like log in. You might not have a cookie save where you're logged in all the time. And you might just lose people at that point, right? Because it's like, the more friction you introduce, so the drop-offs are going to be significant. So that was like kind of like one use case. The other might be, for instance, you're featuring a staff list and from that same email, or in a social media post, you're featuring something and you would like people to open it up in the app instead of this external browser. So one thing that, if you have any answers now, that's great. But one thing that we would love to hear is like, what are the different use cases that your library can see for leveraging this type of technology? And what would you prioritize? Because one thing is with deep linking, there are implications in terms of where we provide the deep links, and it does affect implementation and the complexity of it. So if you think that like, hey, if 30 of you libraries are saying, hey, like, no, the bib page is the place to start, like just solve that first, then that's great. That's like, it gives us some clear directions. So I would love to hear feedback. Again, if you don't have the answers now, but you think this feature would be useful, yeah, I encourage you to add those, suggestions.
Yeah, both Joanna at Jefferson County and Jessica at Snow Isle both said that they would love to have deep linking. So that's awesome.
Great.
And Hope weighed in on the question about links or lists rather. My first inclination is that it would be worth including, but we're also a bunch of people who know how to easily find workarounds, aka go into core, make or edit the list. And it might not be that intuitive to patrons, but a helper note, like a little question mark, could potentially address that up front. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
I can also imagine, staff using, like, I really love the idea of prompting people and encouraging people to share ratings and reviews. And, we're always trying to encourage library staff when they're logged in as a staff account to add their comments because those get bumped up. So it really helps to amplify the voice of the library staff and amplify those voices in the catalog that are there to help everyone. And so I love that idea of being able to do that on the app. I actually don't know how many staff members log into the app with their staff account, and maybe being able to toggle between multi-accounts is something else we can encourage people to do. Because I know historically that has been kind of a pain point for people who have, a staff account, but then also their normal patron account, and toggling between that has been a challenge, but that wouldn't be a challenge with multi-accounts. So if anyone wants to do some little projects at their library and do some research, like this would be really fun. I would also love to hear more about marketing with apps, and particularly around self-check and multi-accounts. I just think there's so much more there that patrons probably don't even know that's an option. When I read through the comments and feedback on apps, which I do a lot right now just because apps is so new compared to the rest of our products. And it's just like come like leaps and bounds over the last couple of years. So congrats to Francis and the whole team. It's just like, I don't want to say it's my favorite product right now, but it's up there. I love all the BiblioCommons products, but apps is just so cool. And so much is happening with it right now. Yeah, Tiffany says, I love our app. I use it all the time personally for my account. I use my app too. Anyway, I'm just interested in like, how can we help patrons know more about what's available in the app? And also I feel like the expectations of apps have really changed and shifted. And when I do read that patron feedback, I see a lot of people saying like, I didn't even know the library had an app. And like, there was one comment from Cincinnati is like, I asked the staff and they didn't think they had an app, which is funny to me. So it's like, oh, how can we like get that out there? Anyway, so I'm really interested in it. Yes, Carol, I do love all BiblioCommons products equally, but yeah, I do get my favorite sometimes. I only have one child, so I never have to like have that problem of which kid I like the most. Although I will say also, Francis, this was super special to be able to get a sneak preview.
Oh yeah, this bunch of my colleagues can be jealous now that you all got to see it first. So.
Yeah. What other questions do you guys have for Francis? We have like 3 more minutes in our last BiblioCon 23 event, office hours on Friday, almost the first day of fall in 2023. Cool. I'm not seeing anything. So I just want to say thank you to all for being here for this last session. We really appreciate all of your support. Like, so much during BiblioCon, I was just like blown away by like how incredible the presentations were. Oh, Matt has this question that he asked for Natasha and Tim. What's the one weird trick that Francis, that you wish that like about apps that you wish more people would ask you about?
Oh, put on the spot there. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I'll get back to you. If I think it's something really cool in the next hour, I'll share it. But yeah.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, and Hope says, looking at apps with fresh eyes about how we can better integrate our electronic collections into the app and some e-resources and some some are more mobile friendly than others. So how to prioritize that. Thanks for the presentation. And I'll pop my suggestions into AHA as they come up. So yay. And everyone is saying thank you, Francis. So thank you, Francis, for being the last office hours of BiblioCon. And thank you guys so much for coming to BiblioCon. And please fill out your surveys because it really does change what we do from year to year. So yay, signing off and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.